You're listening to the Bag of Games Game Out Loud podcast for October 30th. Hello and welcome to our House of Horrors. You are indeed listening to the Bag of Games Game Out Loud podcast, Halloween edition, which actually turns out to be the System Shock edition, so that should be pretty fun for those of you who have either enjoyed System Shock or haven't, since we're going to delve into that amazing game that over the years has kind of been overlooked. But before we get into what we're going to be playing and what we have for a topic, I should probably introduce myself. I'm Jordan Rusnak. I'm your host for this grand podcast. And join me today, I've got the really scary Ryan DeBrawl.
Hi there.
You're terrifying. And of course, I have the ridiculously creepy Colin Cooper.
Hey, what's up? Hey, what are you doing? You want to show me something? I'll show you something. Come here. Show you something.
Okay, that was creepy. And of course, I've got the ghoulish, the crazy, the depraved Rob Peterson. Great maniacal laugh, my friend.
Wow.
That was pretty good.
That was fantastic. Anyway. So, guys, welcome to the Halloween episode. It's glad to have you. Ryan, thanks for joining us. And I think, since you haven't been on in a little bit, Ryan, we'll start with you. What's been taking up your time this week?
Oh, I've been playing quite a menagerie of games, actually. I ran through Dishonored. I played XCOM a little bit. Played System Shock 2, obviously, so I could put my 2 cents in. And just last night, actually, I bought Deadlight, which just got released on Steam.
Okay, I just saw that on Steam. What is this? Tell me about Deadlight.
Deadlight is a 2.5D platformer, meaning it's in 3D graphics, but it's a side-scrolling game. And the controls are exactly like Prince of Persia or Another World / Out of This World, whatever your preference for naming is. So basically what you do is you run around in a city, and there's zombies everywhere, and you can't really combat them and win. So the key to the game is to actually avoid them. So because it's a platformer game, it's a little difficult it's a little difficult to describe, just because if everybody was on this exact same plane, like say Goombas and Mario and Koopas, you just run into the zombies and you die. But what actually happens is, because it's 2.5D and it's in a 3D world, these zombies are actually in the background and in the foreground, and they actually sync themselves up to kind of your plane, the actual game space. So you'll be able to run past groups of zombies, but as soon as you run past them, they become alerted to your existence, and they'll sort of move towards either towards the screen if they're in the background, or away from the screen if they're in the foreground, so they can join you on the same sort of vertical plane. And then they become, the shambling, arms outstretched, mumbling, stumbling undead.
Okay, so you said 2.5.
So popular.
And I thought
you move back and forth? Can you move back and forth on the Z-axis, though?
No, you're stuck on that one plane. So that's kind of what it's kind of a clever use of what would ordinarily be a limitation in a game like this. Because you could imagine having 20 zombies, on the right side of the screen, and you're on the left side of the screen. There's really not much for you to do except maybe blast through them. But the fact that they exist, on a different plane than you, means you can run past them at first. Or potentially even just bypass them completely by taking a higher route, say parkouring over streetlights and stuff like that.
So you can't jump on their heads Mario style, I take it. You have to avoid.
Nope, I've tried it and it's been met with failure.
Well, if you jump on a zombie's head, they typically try to bite you, and that hurts.
Yep.
I know this from experience. Zombies in my neighborhood are just gotten terrible.
Yeah, they took out your Achilles ankle, your Achilles tendon, right?
Yes. I actually now just have a floppy foot. But I was going to ask you, Ryan, so this isn't Little Big Planet style, so you can't move in the foreground and background. Now, do you ever run the risk of alerting these zombies that you're there before you have passed them, thus causing you to have to fight them?
If you're fighting them, it means that you're fighting against the odds. You're not going to win. They'll only give you, one clip of bullets per stage, per level, per area. So it's really, when you're combating them, it's just to get away from them. If you play with controller, the B button, the far right face button, is actually fireman's axe that you hack at them with, and it doesn't really do a lot of damage. It basically just knocks them over temporarily so that you can keep on going. And use aiming similar to, I don't know if you guys have played Shadow Complex, and it's another pretty good Xbox Live game, but where you push the right analog stick in any direction, and whatever direction you're pushing it in is the angle at which your character will be aiming his gun. So it's the same sort of scheme that they use in a genre called dual stick shooters. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Twin stick shooters is what I was going to...
Twin sticks, there you go. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, it's basically that sort of combat system. So it's very reminiscent of the Prince of Persia, where you're lifting yourself up onto ledges, or you're scrambling down from a higher ledge, trying not to get yourself killed. Like I said, I only downloaded it last night, so I haven't gotten very far at it, but it's been pleasantly surprising on most fronts. I guess the only disappointment I've had so far is the actual story is pretty hackneyed. It's pretty cliche. I mean, it starts, your character is straight out of the movie The Road. He's got the raggedy trench coat, and he's got the hobo stocking cap on, and he's been separated from his family, and he must journey across country to reach safe haven.
So you're saying that the mechanics in the game are great, but the plot sucks. Yeah. Now, speaking of that, what do you think of Dishonored?
Wait. Before we get to that, I have one more question about this other game. I'm very interested in this other game, and the art style of this game is what really takes me back.
Man. It's pretty gorgeous.
Yeah, it almost does that thing that what's that other game? The black and white game with the little boy traveling through the platformer. It almost has that Limbo thing, but has a little more. Well, Limbo has a lot of depth art style wise, and even you can't move on the Z-axis, but it has that feeling of place. And this one especially has that feeling of place. And it seems like there's more than zombies, right? There's other humans, and there's helicopters. There's lots of action events. It looks like where helicopters are raining death down upon you. Right?
Is this game silhouetted?
Almost, right?
Almost. It almost is, yes. It's got a very dark, dreary tone to it. It takes place in the Pacific Northwest, so basically, if you remember Alan Wake, it's got that same sort of earthy, dark tones and deciduous forests and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's very gritty, and I'm really impressed so far at the level design, because you'd think, being locked from that one perspective, a side view of the whole world, that it'd be pretty kitschy level design, where yes, okay, you crawl through a couple windows and stuff, but so far, they'll have stuff breaking out of the background. Like just a few minutes before we started talking, I got to a construction site, and I'm not sure what they call them, but those earth diggers, the things with the big mantis claws. I know.
A backhoe.
A backhoe. Yeah. Thank you very much. There was a bunch of disused backhoes on with their claws up in the air in various places, and you're actually using the backhoe scoops or whatever as the platforms to cross what would ordinarily be deadly. It was actually electrified ground from a wire in a puddle or whatever. So it's actually, I've been fairly impressed by how they've integrated very realistic, very organic level design into a 2D space.
Yeah, because it's interesting though. If you look at the art, have you seen the art of this, Jordan? Have you seen the?
I haven't.
Screens?
I just saw the Steam promo, and I'm like, on the store page, I'm like, that it caught my eye. Like the fact that, I think it was the fact that it was called Deadlight, because I'm a big Stephen King fan. So.
Go look at the art is cool because it's silhouette, so it is very comparable artistically in some ways to the game I just said, Limbo, but it almost has that feel. There's more realism there. It's not just because that Limbo has that almost cartoon-esque silhouette. This one has the silhouette, but then there's some texturing, shadowing, and molding to, like, from the light angles that you kind of get a more clear image of your protagonist.
So is this the kind of game where I'm going to like be a silhouette until I run underneath like a light, and then I'll be able to see like a gritty version of my character?
No, not really. It basically, the reason you are silhouetted is because of the lighting. Obviously it's, in a 3D engine, so, there is texture on your character and stuff like that, but the only reason it's silhouetted so much is because of the low light atmosphere of most of the locations. It's actually, like I said, very very organically done. So it's not taking after Limbo or anything like that. They're not purposely making the characters silhouettes or the zombies silhouettes. That tends to be how it is because all the light sources are usually behind you. There'll be trucks with their doors, eerily ajar and their headlights shining in on you. So, you catch all the backlight. But yeah, if I had to compare it to any one art style, I would say Alan Wake is the closest it comes, as far as graphically.
Or like a Ridley Scott movie almost. Like Gladiator or Alien or something like that, where
yes, I would agree with 300 would also be a good one, where it's like there's darkness in the seams, in the pores of this thing. You know what I mean?
And I fail to remember the painter, but there's like a classical painter, who he was excellent at doing things in the dark, but there were still elements of the picture there, like something would be in the dark. You see things there, and that's the hardest thing to do, really, is like those shades of grays and blacks that like give form and structure to something, instead of just something that's completely lit where you can just put texture on it, but doing something in the low light and still giving it form and feel and texture and shape. That's a real achievement, I think, as far as an artist goes.
Yeah, I'd agree with that completely.
All right. Well, thank you, Ryan, for giving us your new Deadlights interpretations and letting me know about that. I'm definitely going to go when I get paid and pick that up. Now, how about you, Colin? You seem to have some fun this weekend. What did you play?
Yeah, I had I played a lot of games this week. Well, I played a lot of games plural, but only two. Besides the topic game, which we'll get to, I pretty much spent all my time on XCOM, which I go to sleep thinking about and sit at work thinking about. That game has me 100%. It is fantastic. I don't know how much Ryan said he's sick of it. I don't know how far you are into it. I'm like 18 hours into it roughly. And I've restarted 4 times.
Yeah, I had to do a couple.
I just didn't understand some really key things I had to do. Something in the game would happen. They're like, an alien ship is attacking. Send your jets. You're like, okay. Oh, you don't have a jet in America. And there's a satellite there. And they just shot down your satellite. America's gone into panic. America's left the XCOM initiative. You're like,
once things start going wrong, they don't get better.
Now, Ryan, was it this version of XCOM or the original version of XCOM that you were telling me about leaving your base, shipping all the way across the world, and realizing that you forgot to equip ammo?
Yeah, it was this XCOM. Actually, yeah, I mean, I was completely on board with this new vision of XCOM, and when I started playing the game, I was in the same boat as Colin. I thought it was excellent, but I pushed a lot of hours into it this week, and it just got to the point where, like Colin was saying, something goes wrong, and you got to restart the game because things aren't going to improve. You're not going to get more popular with the XCOM initiative board. People are going to drop out. Countries are going to drop out simply because there's no way you can keep everybody happy. You can't protect the whole world. So you push yourself down these research paths. Am I going to get armor? Am I going to get weapons? Am I going to concentrate on this type of combat, or I'm going to do another kind? And it gets to this point where actually I had a real issue with it, and I was talking with you about this the other night, Jordan. A few weeks ago, we were discussing XCOM, and I brought up the anecdote where you had to prime your grenades and before you threw them, otherwise nothing happened. And I mentioned that that was kind of a ad hoc way to actually trade over long distances between the people on your teams, and how the streamlining of these modern games kind of loses those technical aspects just because it doesn't add. Well, I mean, it doesn't make more money for the company by including them. It's not something that they can put on the back of their box. Prime your grenades. But the same sort of thing happened to me when I was playing XCOM. I was having a great time. There was a crashed alien craft, and I walked into a room, and the NPC, the science NPC that comments on the surroundings once in a while. He says, "Oh, that alien power source, it must have incredible output. I definitely wouldn't shoot at that thing." And I thought, well, you know what? I'd like to use that. I'd like to use that against my foes. Just as soon as I entered the room, there was the big hulking guys. They're called mutons. They're full of life. They're basically linebackers with plasma rifles. And I was in a tight spot. There was no way I was going to be able to defeat them with just one character who's in this basically the engine room, the engineering room, the warp core or whatever. And I thought, man, I just wish I could prime a grenade, set it down, and walk away from this room so that by the time this guy gets in here, that grenade would detonate and explode. But of course, you can't do this in the new XCOM. The only thing you can do is toss your grenade a predefined distance. And the distance I was able to toss the grenade was smaller than the actual blast radius of the warp core once you breach it. So it was a lost tactical opportunity right there.
Well,
so,
that's. I think there's something to be said for what you're saying, and there's more to it than that, though, because as your characters in the game, and one of my favorite things in the game is that every one of your soldiers is an individual RPG. And almost, I really do compare some elements of FTL to this game, except this is like FTL fully realized and amazing, right? But when you upgrade your characters, you set perks essentially to each one of them, and there are multiple levels of perks. I think there's like about 10 levels of perks, and each upgrade level there's at least 2 choices of a perk. So for each character, and you can have up to 99 of these guys, and that's just that's just the tip of the iceberg for how much depth is in the game. Sure, if you want to compare it to the old XCOM, there is probably a level of depth missing, but especially for a modern game, including Civilization, the depth of this game is great. So say your blast radius of the core was greater than what you could get away from while setting a grenade, but you could get a perk for some characters, like say an assault class character, where shooting shooting as a first move does not allow you to end your turn or doesn't allow you to move next, or grenading. So one move essentially doesn't allow your next move to like have any adjunct effects to it. So you could literally light your grenade next to the core and then make a really long move, because another one of the perks for the assault class is an extra 3 squares of movement. So you could make that extra movement if you use the right character, the right time with the right perks, and that's another big thing of the game is if you're using rookies all the time, or if you're not playing right, you're going to be using rookies a lot, which is really going to hurt your late game play, because you've got to keep people alive. And when you've got veterans, you've always got to bring a couple rookies along with you on all the missions, because you want to have
fodder,
mid game. No, not fodder. You want those rookies you bring with you to upgrade. Sure, somewhat fodder. Like you've got some people to like advance and be the front line there, and it's okay if they die. But you're want those guys.
You're basically
always
power
advancing.
leveling every single
always
time
advancing someone.
Yeah. Throughout each mission, you'll wound your go-to guys, your first string players, so they'll be out for 2 weeks, a week, 2 weeks, whatever. However wounded they are. So
they are, yeah.
You can actually power level your recruits, meaning, if you take a private whatever, or I think they call it a squatty is the first level. You take a low level character into a high level mission with you. If they survive it, which is a big if, they actually get a huge amount of XP. XP is comparable to the
depending on how many they kill, though. If they get killed, especially, then because you'll definitely have missions where guys won't rank up. Because kills are the big rank. Kills are the big ranking up. Or assists, like if you stabilize somebody with a med kit, or you wound somebody, or wounding or killing. Like if you do something active on the battlefield, I think those are where you get those points. And then there's obviously upgrades that you can pay for in the military training school, of like you upgrade faster, or certain things do different things, or people heal faster, things like that. But you would never want to bring your A team fully. I always bring like 2 rookies, 1 or 2 rookies, because I've upgraded so I have a 6-man team. That's one of the first things I did was upgrade to a 6-man team. So I'm always bringing 2, sometimes 3 rookies, and then bringing a couple A game guys.
Oh, not me. I always brought my first string people, and if one of them got killed, I just reloaded a save. I played with the same 6 people.
See, I think that strategy can hurt you in the long game on this. I don't know. I haven't beat it yet.
Oh, you're definitely right. I mean, I've gotten to a point now where I don't see any way to actually survive this scenario I'm at. Go
ahead. Sorry.
Oh, well, I'm just saying there seems to be a seed value, and that's a programmer's term. Basically, what I mean is the randomization gets locked in per scenario. So even if you reload a save and it regenerates a different ship or a different forest or wherever the level is, there's still a certain collection of enemies or events that are going to take place. Like a certain enemy
but
type
they will be
is
in
going to
different
make
places.
introduction. Yes, that is pretty
I
interesting.
love that.
Well, so this game, what I'm hearing from Ryan and you, Colin, is that this game has a steep curve. Like you can pick it up and feel that you're understanding it, but then later on you're like, oh shit, I didn't understand a thing. Now, would you say, Ryan?
10 hours.
Well, so would you say that once this game starts its downward spiral, it is nigh impossible to stop it?
I think you mean basically the steepness of the difficulty curve.
Correct.
Is it eventually going to be diminishing returns?
Yes, if you've messed up in your previous play.
I think every single move you make, meaning every decision you make when you're back at base and how you perform during the missions, if you make a mistake early on, it will haunt you for the rest of the game. And obviously,
which is the best part of the game.
Now,
it
Colin,
can be
are you
frustrating,
playing
but
Iron
it's
Man?
also very rewarding.
I'm not yet. I'm learning. I'm just saying, like, that's what this game is about. This game is about level and depth. I love that. I'm not playing on Iron Man. I will be playing on Iron Man next, but I have definitely loaded a lot. But I do forget to save for many missions sometimes, and that bites me fucking hard in the ass. Because sometimes I've definitely had missions where my last playthrough, right? Because I've restarted 4 times. On this current playthrough, I've been very good about losing people and reloading. But what's great about this game is once you figure out how the game works, then it allows you to consciously make choices. And the world is going to move. The world of the game is going to move in randomized ways, whether you want it to or not, for good or for bad. But it's depending on your choices is how you're going to react to those, to the way the world moves, right? So you've got to make very specific choices that makes you own up to those choices, like Walking Dead or something. And you've got to kind of play this game at one point once you get it. So yes, reload the game, restart a lot until you get it. Once you get it, though, you've got to start living with those choices. And I can't wait till my Iron Man playthrough, because then it will really be living with those choices. And maybe you won't even be able to finish, but it's good. Sorry, Rob.
And I can't wait until we talk about System Shock 2 so I can tell you all those things you just told Ryan about the game.
Awesome.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, I mean, but like I was saying earlier to Ryan, like some of your strategy, I've always make sure I take 2 to 3 rookies, because now I'm at the point in the game where I have at my current playthrough, I have like 18 at least level 3 vets.
Oh wow.
And I've got like 5 snipers to choose from. And snipers are your fucking bread and butter, man. They are. Now,
are you giving your snipers the squad view perk? Is that what it's called? The one where your snipers can shoot anybody from anybody's view?
On each level, with those perks, like Colin was saying, each rank that you go up, you have to choose between one or the other moves. And for all my snipers, I didn't choose the squad set. I think I chose the other one. I think the opposite choice, the squad view, is your ability to fire at an enemy and not have it count as a move. Like if you
that's a great one. Yeah. That's like
there's some.
I think that's super powerful.
Yeah,
and if you're go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, there are, I guess maybe I am being a little harsh with XCOM. There are some terrific perks. I mean, the game is, if you ever played like a Final Fantasy Tactics game or something like that, it's always move, shoot, next guy, move, shoot, next guy. But with XCOM, there's the assault class. He's decked out with a shotgun. He's got a move called run and gun, and I love it. I mean, you can basically, you click run and gun, and it disactivates it for 2 rounds. But now you can charge twice as far, and when you get there, you can still use your grenades, you can still use your shotgun. My most popular tactic, and the same one I use in basically every game I play that has a shotgun, I walk up right to their face until I have 100% shot, and then I activate another move after I've done the run and gun called, I forget what it's called, but it allows you to basically do snapshot, do 2 point blank shots, and it's got a reduced accuracy, but that hardly matters when your barrel is like embedded in their forehead.
Point blank. See,
so,
like the thing about the game that's so cool in that respect, obviously there's so many levels to it, is when you're tactically on the battlefield making like choices of where your players are as far as elevation goes, sight lines, all those things. I keep my players. I make very small moves. I very rarely dash, which is like going outside your move that you have a second move. Like you have a perimeter that you can hit and make a second move, like firing or move again or whatever.
So you're taking your 5-foot step.
I'm taking tiny little steps, very much, thinking about who I am, like where I'm going. Like assault class is obviously forefront shotgun. Assault rifles, they're kind of my frontline guys. Then I've got right behind them, I've got my heavy class, which is heavy machine guns, rockets, always grenades. And then I usually got 1 or 2 snipers, which are way in the background on full cover, because there's full cover, there's half cover.
I believe they actually fire better from farther away. Like the closer you get, the more reduced your. I guess that's one thing I've got to bring up is the aim randomization. I mean, sometimes it says you got a 95% chance and you miss. There have been times when I've literally had my. Rolling. Yes, but I mean, there is something a little wonky about being 99% and having the barrel of your gun literally overlapping with the enemy and still missing.
Well,
and then at the same time,
I think that's the role.
Then at the same time, I can be 100 yards away and shooting through 3 derelict cars into a coffee shop, and I headshot the guy. And it's like that's a little too.
I really think it is the roll of the dice, though. I really do. I think it's just it feels wonky, but it's just like sometimes you hit that 1%, and I've hit shots where it seems pretty fair to me. I got to be honest. Like if I'm over 50, I'll take it. If I'm under 50, I'll risk it sometimes, but I'll try to think of a different tactic. Like I'll fall back to cover or something. For me,
and it was 80% or above, or otherwise it was basically a guaranteed miss. And that's with everybody. Everybody
really?
had scopes. Yeah, everybody had scopes equipped. And I barely
always shoot over 50. I always shoot over 50, and I feel like it is about 50-50. I really do feel like that. And if I'm over 80, I almost have never seen a miss over 80. Maybe 1 or 2 times. And I never shoot under 30 ever.
Well,
like I go to cover
percentages will be give or take. I mean, if you're doing dice rolls, then that's going to definitely take over what you're going to be doing. Like, it's not like a first-person shooter where you're just going to go and shoot. If they're rolling dice, there's always that chance to miss. But speaking of rolling, let's roll over to Rob and see what he's been playing, because you said you were pretty excited to talk to me, Rob. What have you been playing this week?
Yeah, so 'tis the season, so I've been kind of going through my library of horror games and seeing what I've got. And someone on Twitter pointed out to me that I've never actually finished Cryostasis, which is a game I bought a couple years ago.
Did you say that you went cold on that game?
I had a rather icy reaction to it.
Okay, guys.
just cool it, Cooper.
Just cool, yeah.
No, my main problem with it was it's really poorly optimized, and my computer just couldn't run it well enough for me to continue. Every time I got in a fight with someone, it turned into a slideshow. And for people who don't know, this is a first-person adventure horror brawler with the occasional gun.
That sounds like way too many things to be putting into the same game.
It's so many things. It's very Eastern European. It's I believe it's from I don't remember. It's not from Russia, but you should own this game. I think this is a game you would like a lot. You play like a scientist. So you're not Gordon Freeman, by the way. You're not a super god as soon as you pick up weapons. You feel pretty underpowered throughout the game. But you come to this frozen shipwreck, and you're trying to figure out what happened here. And as you're kind of going through unraveling these puzzles and figuring out the world, you discover that when you find these dead bodies, you can go into the person's last moments of their life and change what killed them.
Oh, whoa.
So you're going back in time and making them not die. You're facing their final moments. So it makes a lot of scary things. It'll be like the ship's being flooded with water and you have to escape and climb up a ladder and get all the doors open and run away from that before it happens. Or you're being attacked by a zombie monster, which are kind of the bad guys in the game that attack both you and your past selves. So like there's one level where you're on this little makeshift boat paddling around and this zombie will jump out of the water and climb onto your boat and you got to shoot it, and it has a way of almost always coming up behind you, so you're like looking around, you can hear it, and you're like, oh my god, where is it? And it's a really terrifying and gorgeous game.
When was this released?
2009, and it's aged a little bit. You can see it in the character models and stuff, but the environments that are in it are so beautifully done and eerie. Everything's covered in ice, and the textures are really gorgeous, and it does for ice what Bioshock did for water back in 2007, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It's something that is gorgeously rendered and really brings you into the environment and makes the levels a part of that one aspect of it.
Does the ice actually have depth, unlike a lot of ice in a lot of games?
Yes, it's all normal mapped and really good looking. Before the podcast started, we were talking about how Unreal games all have that goofy, bumpy, shiny look. Mm-hmm. This isn't an Unreal game, but they take that look and make it really work. Like, it makes sense when it's frost that you're looking at that looks like that.
I don't know if you played this game, but the best snow I ever saw, or the ice rather, was in Metro 2033, and that was another rig-breaking game, with high graphical requirements. Have you played that game?
I got that.
And if so,
I have.
Would you compare the snow or ice in Cryostasis with the quality in Metro 2033?
I would compare a lot of things about this game with Metro 2033. It has that kind of dismal. It does have bad shooting. Although Metro 2033, that's a very intentional choice. I don't think it was in this. Well, actually, maybe it was, because you don't really know what you're doing. There's a lot of
bullets are your monetary source of income in that game, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In 23, yeah.
This doesn't have any economy systems like that, but it is kind of one of those weird things where it's this Eastern European game with a proprietary engine that came out of nowhere and looks gorgeous, and everything that it does beautifully is in service of the game.
Sure, when you built the engine just for the game, you get a very tight aesthetic.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to put it. And like Metro 2033, this game's very, very focused on building mood and mystery and making believable spaces. I think that's something Metro 2033 did really, really well, where when you're walking around these terrible camps in this awful post-apocalypse, you really feel like this is a place
lived in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And in this, you really feel like you're in a place that's been frozen for 20 years.
Wow.
And I don't know, it's a really good game. There's a little bit of clunk. The brawling isn't the greatest, it's not Escape from Butcher Bay brawling. It's more like Condemned Criminal Origins, where the hits don't connect quite right. But it doesn't matter. It's not really about the fighting in this game. It's about exploring an interesting space in the first person and being immersed in this bizarre little world for several hours. And it's very scary.
I am now going to get Condemned Bloodshot. I'm going to go find that game and play it. I mean, there's nothing better than beating like possessed hobos with bent rebar with concrete.
Do you feel like there's a sense of purpose in the game, though? Because one of the things that's really great about Metro 2033, because the game itself is really honestly not that fun, but what's great about it is the sense of place and purpose and world. You know what I mean? That's what makes that game. Although it's very pretty, but they make you feel like it's this living, breathing place where you're doing something for a real purpose. That's what really makes Metro 23 great, and I think that's what should be the most comparable thing to that game.
Well, did Metro 2033 come out before or after Metro 23?
What?
You said Metro 2033 or 2023 a bunch of times.
Let's just call it Metro.
Yeah, Metro.
2033. 2033.
God damn it, Jordan! Now I don't remember the question.
I'm sorry.
No, I think there's less of a broader world that's hinted at in this game, but you do feel like you're having a big impact on this small little secluded space that you're in because, like I said, you are undoing the past as you come throughout this game. You are unmaking things happen, and that allows you to progress through it. So you do have kind of a constant feeling like you are an active player on this frozen ship, but it doesn't have the kind of a greater world and all that stuff you were talking about with Metro.
Can you draw parallels between Cryostasis and, if you've seen it, the movie The Thing?
A little bit. I think with John Carpenter's The Thing, it's more of like a not being able to trust anyone type scenario.
Paranoia.
It's like, who is this
Absolutely.
monster?
That's like one of my favorite movies, by the way.
Terrible game, but great movie.
No, it's a
really?
good game.
I really liked the game.
Yeah,
I didn't
great.
care for it.
I played the game and won it before I ever even watched the movie.
That's what's so cool about that, and I hope this game has some element of that. Yeah, I mean, is the fact that, like Rob said, it's all about, it's like a character study with monsters almost. You know, like nobody who can you trust? Who are these people? And one of the most interesting things, I know this diverts slightly, but there's a great documentary about that movie, and the actors chose in that movie that when they were the Thing, they didn't know it. They still felt like themselves and thought they were themselves.
Wow,
so the Thing acted on that level that it's like it was inside of them literally, and was like, and would maybe make conscious choices for them, like, but they didn't know it on the outside, like they were a shell.
Oh, so the thing wasn't a puppet master. It was more along for the ride.
Yeah, it was incubating.
Well, that's an actor choice again, but. And speaking of I just saw the new Thing, which is the prequel. Has anyone seen that?
What? Is it literally called The New Thing?
No, it's called The Thing. It's just called The Thing again. It's
called That Thing You Do.
Ugh.
And it's a prequel, and it's, by the way, and it got terrible reviews, and I saw it, and it's awesome. By the way, it is a true to form prequel, absolutely. Like, let's do the prequel how John Carpenter would do a prequel. They take music from it. They make the Thing how it is. It is literally, if you've seen the movie, it's the Norwegian camp.
See, I felt that way about Prometheus. Like, I love Prometheus as a prequel, but that's not really a prequel.
Oh, anyway. I thought Prometheus was it's
an awful movie.
It's a beautiful movie, but it just doesn't make any fucking goddamn sense the entire time.
It's a mess.
Well, it's a
mess.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
It is.
The plot is a fucking mess. But it's beautifully shot, But no, anyway. Yeah, this is a true to form, like, every question you had, like, how the Thing got to the camp in the first movie, with the like, down to the art design of, like, oh, there's that thing where the two heads in the first movie, that's how that thing happened, and there it is, burned on the ground where they found it, and, like, it's a true to form prequel, and it ends like 10 minutes before the first movie starts.
Oh, there you go.
Wow. That does sound like an awesome way to do a prequel, because that's the problem with, doing prequels is how do they get bigger? How are you going to make something bigger if it's before, the actual, event that it's supposed to, preface?
Yeah, it was crazy. Well, like, I was when the movie was ending, I was like, "Oh shit, this isn't a prequel." And then it ended, and I was like, "Oh, clap, clap, clap!" Like, that's how that's how the movie starts. The Thing 1 starts, but it's just called The Thing as well. Cool. Yeah, it was. If you've seen The Thing and you like it, see the first one. I suggest it. So,
what were you saying there, Rob?
I was just gonna say, to finish answering Ryan's question, I wouldn't say it's like The Thing aside from the setting. But
it was fun discussing The Thing.
Great divergence. So that was a great divergence. Yeah.
I would compare this more to a trope that you see in a lot of adventure games, which is that the action kind of already happened, and then you show up and you're unraveling it.
Oh, okay.
That's an interesting way to put that. I never thought about it that way. A lot of adventure games go that way. But anything else you've been playing other than this chiller freaky game?
Yeah, I'll just leave you with Cryostasis. It really sent an icy feeling up my spine.
Good Lord.
Everyone here play Dishonored?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we've done the Dishonored bit. Mm. I beat it. I was really, really disappointed in the chaotic ending.
Yeah, I got the same ending. Too convenient to kill everyone.
Oh, it was. But anyway, I'm going to jump into my games here so we can get to our topic. Real quick, I picked up the indie bundle for Halloween, and I ended up getting the Sam & Max Playhouse of Horror, I believe is what it's called. Or Devil's Playhouse, that's what it is. And I started up that, and this is my first foray into the new Sam & Max. I don't know about you guys, but when I was growing up, I definitely played Sam & Max Hit the Road. Have any of you guys played Sam & Max Hit the Road other than you, Rob? Because you and I pretty much played everything the same when we were kids because we lived right next to each other.
I played the demo, but that's one of the only LucasArts graphic adventures I never played.
Don't know what it is.
No, I've never really. I mean, I've always seen, they always seem to have a new one coming out every once in a while, or a sequel or something like that. But I don't know, that rabbit freaks me out with its crazy
antics
smile.
Yeah,
was
it
made by Broken Tail or Telltale?
Yes, it is a Telltale game, and I did have Broken Tail happen when I first.
Well, the new ones are Telltale. The old one was a LucasArts game.
Sure.
Yes.
Oh, the Telltale took over the game.
Yes.
Okay. They bought. Wait. Telltale
it's a lot of the same
from
guys.
LucasArts?
No, it's a lot of the same guys.
Okay.
The Telltale happened once all the shit hit the fan with the LucasArts adventure games, like not being made anymore.
Mm-hmm. I think Telltale licensed properties. That's why they have The Walking Dead and the Jurassic Park.
It's like a weird thing that anything Telltale could buy something from LucasArts. Like we're a startup. Hey, gigantic corporation.
Well, they may have owned it. Sam & Max wasn't an original IP from LucasArts. It was based on a bunch of comic strips.
Did they just publish it, or did they make it?
I don't know how the rights went down with that, but it's my impression that Lucas didn't actually own it. They just licensed it to make that one game.
Oh, really? Okay.
Interesting.
Well, it's got its own little quirky bit of humor, and it was one of the original point-and-click adventure games I used to play as a kid, and now I pick it up, and I didn't know what to expect because this was all done by, text bubbles and poorly, done cartoon walking on your characters. Now I've got a fully realized 3D world that I can move around in, so it's sort of Walking Dead-esque, and it's really throwing me through a loop as far as the gameplay goes. I was not expecting it, and having the characters voiced. Man, Max does not have the voice I thought he would. And by the way, Max is some sort of crazy rabbit-like thing. I don't think he's actually just a rabbit. They refer to him as a rabbit creature. But you've also got Sam, who is the detective dog who wears the suit and the fedora and has the gun and all that. And they make up a freelance police squad that goes and takes on crazy hijinks and does all this. And I gotta say, I didn't expect the voices to be what they are, but they grew on me very quickly, and the whole way they're using the interactions in the world, I think, is really, really fun, where I can still use just my mouse if I want to, but I can now use my Xbox 360 controller to play as well, or I can use my mouse and keyboard. I mean, there's several different ways of which I can manipulate this game world, and I am having a blast. I just got through the first episode, and that was rather strange. I mean, they're doing this whole time jump, I'm fighting a purple ape skunk alien who's trying to destroy the world, and then I go back to the beginning of that story. Yeah, whenever I run into purple skunk aliens, I just typically tend to go the other direction. But once they have the ape in them, I just can't help it, and I try to give them a banana, and they end up shooting me. But
what?
That's about where I turned off Citizen Kane. When that purple skunk ape alien shows up, I was just out.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the only flaw to that movie, funny enough.
And the other thing I've been playing this week, other than that new Sam & Max, which is a lot of fun, I suggest you guys go and pick up that indie bundle.
And I agree. I've played that one as well. They're really great adventure games.
They are. Point-and-click adventures are something that I fell out of touch with for a few years, and now that I'm coming back to them, I am very happy to see how they've evolved. But speaking of a game that hasn't evolved, it stayed the same since it came out, considering the fact that I don't think there was any product update for this game. I went back and I played Dishonored. Or not Dishonored, damn it.
Slip?
You said that confidently, though.
Yes. I am known for being completely confident in my wrong statements, but I did play Undying. Clive Barker's Undying, nonetheless.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
great game.
2 people I heard say, woo, yeah. Now, Colin, have you not played this game?
Nope.
Oh, my God.
Don't you own it, though?
I actually do. I bought it at a thrift store, and I saw it, and I remember, I have it in box with manual, like original.
Sealed? No, do you have the diary that's in the box?
Do you want me to go look?
I want to buy this from you, by the way.
Seriously.
Okay, I'm gonna go look. Hold on. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves.
For those of you listeners, you can stop whistling. I have something to fill this area. When this game came out, Rob and I saw it in a bargain bin at Fred Meyer, and we were like 12, 14, somewhere around there, Rob.
Probably 14, 15, yeah.
All right,
we snapped it up. Now, this game came with of course, the game, the manual, but then it also came with a diary that was full of these entries. No diary?
Wait, unboxing. Second unboxing.
Unboxing of a 10-year-old game.
Yes, XCOM and Undying.
Right now. No, there's a full manual with sticky notes in it, by the way. That's pretty cool. So there's literally Post-it notes in this fucking thing. Become light, number 1 on, number 86, behind view, number 1 on, number 0 off, light, set jump, normal, 200 to 300. It looks like this guy was...
Will this guy debug the game or something?
It looks like he was doing some work on this game, and there's notes in here on that. That's weird. And it's literally sticky notes in the manual. That's interesting.
That's really strange.
Yeah, so Clive Barker's Undying. Yeah, that's it. I got it at a thrift store for I texted you, Rob, actually, about it. I don't know if this was a year ago, but
I remember.
Hey, do you know what this Clive Barker's Undying game is? I thought I had heard Rob talk about it at one point, and he said, yeah, it's awesome. Get it. I was like, it's awesome. How much is it? And I said it was like $3 or something.
Oh my God, $3. Yeah, go install that, Colin. That game is one of the best horror games I have played when it comes to old school first person shooting games.
Really?
The magic used in that game is a lot of fun. The ambiance in that game is a lot of fun, and the bosses in that game are great. I loaded the game up, started playing, and just because I remember a specific boss, I went and looked up the cheats and figured out where this area was and figured out how to load just that level up. There's a boss in this game. This is the first time I ever saw this. He's a normal-looking person, and then when he gets angry or when he tries to kill you, he then morphs into this huge axe-wielding, evil, dumb-looking character. He just his face looks stupid. He's like, duh. But he
haven't we talked about
he
this
hulks
game?
out?
Yes, he does. He hulks out.
This game is has nothing to do with Clive Barker, though, right?
Yeah, he had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah, he slapped his name on it. This was written by Austin Grossman, who wrote Dishonored. And
System Shock. Yeah. On the box here, on the top left, it says, quote, Undying is the most complete and balanced single-player first-person shooter since Half-Life by Game Pro.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, that is a perfect statement.
It's been a couple of years since I've played that game, but I remember it just being magic. I remember it being a little bit kind of like the Legend of Zelda series in its exploration aspects. It wasn't completely open world, but you could wander around places, couldn't you?
Yes,
and
you could.
Retrace your stairs. And
you had levels that you had to go around, do stuff in. You had the mansion you were in. And they had different locations. So you played around in this huge mansion. Not Cohen. That's that insanely stupid, twinkly vampire movie people.
Wait, why do you even know that?
Fiance.
Gross.
Sure.
No, I like women. Thank you.
No, not women. Gross that you know that.
Well, I just wish that he would die. But the gameplay is really good. You do have that exploring feel, and even more so, you've got scrying, a scry ability, and if you use this, all of a sudden you'll start seeing things that weren't in the world before. And so that adds another little depth to it. And they have different levels that just take you out of the standard for level base. I mean, you're in the haunted grounds, you're in the mansion, and then all of a sudden you're fighting like this lord of magic. And you're in this world that he created. You're in his realm. And it's absolutely bass-ackwards and brain-bending, and it's absolutely fantastic. Anybody who can find this game should find it and play it. And that includes you, Colin, since you have a disc copy.
Wait, big question here. Rob, will I like this game?
I think so. It has that kind of element that you and I have talked about a lot with first-person shooters that Raven does really well, where it's like first-person shooter plus. It's first-person shooter plus you have these powers added in. But this game is actually a lot better written and has a more interesting setting than any Raven game. I
thought the story and the setting were fantastic.
Excellent. Yeah, they're really, really excellent. So
okay.
I think it's a little bit mazy for you.
Well, we were discussing earlier about, how a world can feel lived in. I mean, this Undying world takes place in, and again, it's been so many years, so if I'm wrong, somebody correct me, but it takes place in this mansion, which is a seaside mansion in like Maine or something like that. It feels like Maine. And this mansion is lived in by a insane group of like aristocratic family members. Like it's like 3 brothers and 2 sisters or something like that, isn't it?
Yep.
And they're all
two brothers, 2 sisters.
Batshit crazy. They're all like straight out of Adam's Family or something like that.
They are cursed. It's a curse that's on this family that is because of some standing stones you learn that are on their property.
Oh,
and
man.
Just so you know, you will hear "won't open" and "locked" so much. Like
lots of locked doors.
rattle, "won't open."
And then they'll open inexplicably once you trigger like the event that opens them. That's a little frustrating. It is kind of a mazy game.
It does date itself like that. Yeah. But it's a great game. The rendering on the enemies is fantastic. I mean, especially with the bosses. The twist at the end is great, and the overall story is fantastic. So, like I said, if anybody has access to this game, you need to go install it and play it. And then go ahead and write us at gameoutloudpodcast@gmail.com and tell us what you think. But I think that is a perfect time for us to take a break. You listen in. I'm going to go refill my drink, and we will check you on the flip side. Okay, and we're back. Now, this week, we thought we would go back and play one of the, best first-person horror experiences, in my opinion, to date. And what that is System Shock 2. And for those of you who don't know what System Shock 2 is, I think I can put it together in a few words. Precursor to Bioshock. It definitely feels that way. Now, I hear, Rob, you are just biting at the bit to yell at me. What is your input here?
Yeah, what the fuck, Jordan?
Spiritual successor.
Inspiration. Better game.
Oh, you think it's a better game?
Well, I do think it's a better game, but no, I mean, I'm kind of joking. The reaction from System Shock 2 fans to Bioshock was generally extremely negative. I'm not that negative about it, but it does bring forward a lot of gameplay, plot, and thematic elements, and Bioshock maybe doesn't do them as well in a lot of ways, I think. I think that Bioshock does a lot of things better than System Shock 2, but I think that if you play both games right in a row, you'll be a little bit disappointed with Bioshock just because it feels like it's kind of playing the music but playing the notes but missing the music, so to speak. It references System Shock 2 heavily, but kind of misses the things that really elevate that from a good game to a great one.
But it depends on when you play it, because there is a humongous approachability factor to this game as far as date goes.
Oh, yes.
I won't say it's humongous.
This game
I struggled so hard the entire time with the interface on this thing.
Well, this game was created back when they were using your interface to create a sense of immersion. So using your index, so switching into item mode away from functional firing mode, while it's really kind of clunky, I felt like that was definitely made me feel like I was more in the game, because instead of having just this firing thing and then hitting E to select something, I actually switched over into a different mode using my same cursor to interact with things instead of just shooting.
And it doesn't offer you any escape. I think that's a really important thing about this game. The way the interface works, it never freezes the game. You always have that sense of fear and urgency, because while you're doing things, it's as though you were really in that ship opening your backpack to put stuff in. Like
that's true.
You're not freezing the game world while that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I was basically unaware of this game before a couple weeks ago when you guys said you were going to be doing this podcast. So I had a copy of it. Cause I'd heard the same thing for years now. It's the spiritual precursor to Bioshock, and I played Bioshock, and I like Bioshock just fine. But, they always compare it to this game that I'd never even played, and it never even got much attention. It was just one of those cult classics. And, so I went into the game. I wasn't expecting a whole lot from it, but I was delightfully surprised. I mean, it was really ahead of its time. I mean, I know it released about the same time as Half-Life, didn't it?
Yeah, it was about a year, maybe less than a year later, but
right. And it was definitely a lot more than I was expecting of it. When you say it's the spiritual precursor to Bioshock, I actually found it a lot more related to like the original Deus Ex game, as far as the inventory management
I can see that.
The ability to like hack cameras and use multiple different tactics to, you can take this, the power approach and just go at something, or you can hack computer and you can disable the turret, or you might find it.
Like the freaking infinite spawning of guys, I think
that I did not like.
I hate that. I think it's anti-immersive. I think it takes me out of it. I'm like, really?
I agree. I actually had to restart the game a couple times because, when you're first diving into this game, you don't exactly know how to play. You're not conserving your bullets. And, like you said, the enemies are respawning out of nowhere, but the bullets aren't respawning. So basically, if you spend too much time in any one level, you're basically screwing yourself over, because you're not going to have the resources you need to actually complete the level.
I think that takes you out of immersion, because you're not allowed to like really take it in as much as you would.
It's not supposed to take it in. It's supposed to give you that sense of urgency. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to be around this corner, and I'm picking up these items, and I need to figure this out. But you don't want to stay in one spot for too long, because you'll be attacked.
No. Well, and maybe that's supposed to, but it's a flaw, I think, in my opinion.
I think both of those things are true, and I think there's a really obvious solution to this problem that they missed out on, which is if they would have made it so once you kill someone, the computer eventually brings them back to life, so it's the same person, it would have solved both of those issues. It would have kept the urgency and kept the pulsing feeling of, okay, I have limited resources and unlimited enemies. I need to move forward. I can't stay still.
And where you have a finite amount of possible NPCs, but because it did feel a little like a horde mode, where they're just appearing from random dark hallways. I didn't like that, and I mean I see where Jordan's coming from, where it keeps you on edge because you never feel completely safe. But I also like the feeling in like the early Resident Evil games where once you killed those 3 zombies in the hallway, that hallway's clear. You've successfully cleared it out.
This game never gives you a breather. It's such a constant cardiac episode.
That's exactly the perfect way to put it. Like I was just going to say, like pacing is maybe a more modern idea for some games, and this game lacks pacing 100%. It does not pace the game well at all. Games need to have moments of intensity, and they need to have moments of breath where you look at the environment and you take things in. That makes a game even scarier when you can take things in.
I don't think so.
What, really? When you have a moment to like realize what's happening than being in a constant chase.
I'll tell you what's scary.
I think
that's seeing these textures in high definition and still having everything be 2D on the walls.
It felt like one note the whole time, like da 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 da. Scary or interesting things are like different pacings, different notes. So so you have moments where you feel like you're safe. That's what makes something scary, where you feel like you're safe and then you're not. I'm never safe.
Oh,
and then
I don't
you're just
think
like,
so.
God,
I think,
okay, this is boring now.
I think this is one of the scariest games I've ever played, and I think that's
I was actually, like I said, I hadn't played this game before. I was actually surprised by how scary it was. Like, I played through Amnesia and I played the Resident Evil games. There's plenty of jump scares, and I was surprised that even though these character models are made of less than 100 polygons, probably a piece, and they have probably tiny little 64 by 64 square skins wrapped around them, they're actually pretty terrifying. I mean, the sounds they made, how they're mocking you, it was everyone's just kind of insane. Yeah, it's like people are trapped inside their own bodies, but they're acting without. I mean, it was very creepy, especially for I was surprised by it being that old and graphics looking the way they did, how it actually affected me. And I kind of have to agree with Colin on the point that with all these respawning enemies and stuff like that, there was no rest period. You got to know what Placid is before you can understand what the extreme is, because otherwise it just these waves of terror, they're just washing over you so commonly, you just become numb to the whole experience, and it just becomes sweat on your brow. You're like, okay, that was a good 20 minutes of gaming, not that was a good 4 hours of gaming, because you just become over saturated, I don't know the term, but basically.
And here's a question too, and I want to go kind of down the line with you guys because I'm really curious. I think it'll help the discussion a lot. Ryan, how did you play it? Jordan too.
I definitely went towards the gun player. I mean, I figured for my first playthrough, I might as well just get highest armor, highest gun ability I can, because if I concentrate on hacking or I concentrate on psi abilities, I don't play mages and wizards in game. I always play the guy that's got the shield and the heavy armor, because I like to get in there and I like to do some damage. I don't play the careful, concise character. I like to paint the walls with blood.
Right. How about you, Colin?
I did psi for sure, but yeah. I did. I regretted that choice because
really,
yeah, because what I found was that I'm like Ryan. Well, I used to be like Ryan. Like I like to paint the walls with blood, but more like the older I've become as a gamer, I found myself to be much more into the concise, sneaky thing, or more concise decision. Yeah, skill. Like in a game, I find not that it's sneak in System Shock, but I'm saying where there's a lot more. There feels to be more thought into what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Concise movement, concise choices. You like to think a few steps ahead now.
I do like to think a few steps ahead now. But perhaps it's because I struggled so hard with just playing the game the entire time. Still, I still struggle with the game. As if I'm playing Assassin's Creed 2 because there's so many keys to remember and press and do and move, and I don't think that.
Are you playing this wrong? Maybe I'm trying to think. The game controls pretty much exactly like Dishonored, except there's also a mouse interface and that does everything as well.
Yeah, I was to say, what do you have?
There are shortcut keys for all those, but most people don't use them, I don't think.
No, even down to just when you're listening to logs or going to your inventory or map or setting waypoints or any of that stuff. Maybe part of it was because I put it down for a while and then picked it up again. That probably helped me hurt me in my struggle, but I just struggled a lot with that. I mean, obviously the basic shooting stuff is fine, but I don't know. I just struggled with playing the game and figuring out like hacking was fine. I mean, did this game, by the way, start that annoying hacking game that we've all kind of either hate or loved?
I think
System
this is one
Shock
of the...
1 had a hacking
You
system.
mean where you have the arbitrary mini game?
The same like hubby little beep, like click like Deus Ex
in
hacking
System
kind
Shock
of, but
1,
way
it
more.
it didn't leave the world. You were looking at, you'd have wires that you were looking at, and then you would, as though you didn't go to a different interface. You would just move the wires around as though you were moving them in the real world. But it was the same basic idea.
Did that game start that whole thing? I mean,
System Shock 1 probably did, yeah.
okay.
So,
Also, can I say that is, as much as I love Ken Levine, is he kind of the Tim Burton of games?
Well, like he does the same thing a lot.
Yeah. Like the same exact fucking thing.
Well, that's what I mean when I say that Bioshock is kind of like the shadow of this game. The plot structure is identical. The way storytelling happens is identical. A lot of the levels are even the same.
Yeah, like hydroponics, medical, whatever, the command center. Like these are like it's the same thing. Like in hydroponics, you're trying to poison. That's where I am in the game, by the way. Hydroponics. Like you're trying to poison essentially the air, right, to kill the stuff blocking the elevator. So that's almost the same fucking thing in Bioshock. You poison the air to kill off the vegetation.
Oh, and I have to say
sounds like
this.
There's like a vision. You know, I mean, some stories get retold and retold throughout history. You know, how many different versions of Wizard of
Throughout
Oz,
history.
throughout
Throughout
history.
history.
So there are certain themes that, you know, come back around, and I think, you know, I mean, I definitely.
Sorry,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's different when like Shakespeare tells a story and you do a retelling of Taming of the Shrew in a modern way, as if Shakespeare was like, now I'm gonna redo Taming of the Shrew, but make it just a little different.
Yeah, it's like he did Romeo and Juliet, and then did
Juliet and Romeo.
Yeah, Romeo and Juliet. Yeah, and he's just like, so it's the same story, but he's like, now there's a twist. Like, except there's not.
This one's in an Art Deco place underwater. The other one was on a spaceship.
The next one will be in the sky. Anyway.
But if you were scared, don't worry. There's still a disembodied voice that tells you what to do, and then there's going to be subsections of the whole thing. Also, then Dead Space was like, hey, we should do that.
Well, Dead Space started off with System Shock 3.
It did
I can
feel,
see
Dead
that.
Space felt a lot like System Shock as far as, yes.
And I love Dead Space.
Like
Dead Space
it. I
was a
could
great
not.
game.
That's like the exact same game. And then Halo even. Rob, you and I talked about this. There's some, I'm not there yet, but I looked ahead. I looked ahead on YouTube and I haven't seen it, but man, not there yet in the game, but that last level is the flood level. It like pustules the whole thing.
Yeah, the little vagina doors and stuff. Well, I guess that's mostly prey.
Whoa.
But
I hate that level.
In both games, I hate both those levels.
Well, here's my question for you guys. What did you guys think of the beginning? So how you determine what your class and character strengths are going to be. I'm going to start with you, Ryan.
I wanted to bring that up. I'm glad you asked that question, because when the game came out, you know, it's one of those games where they're trying to do more than had previously never had been done before. So, you know, you don't have all these standard mechanics that people can draw on all the time. So, I believe you're referring to how you actually walk down the hallways, right?
Yes, you go to the specific schools, which will give you specific little dialogue, story, and then give you stat increases.
I actually really liked it, but more for the reason that I actually found it quaint, because you could tell that, you know, I could almost sense the meeting these guys were having, where it's like, do we want to spend 6 months trying to design this new interface to allow them to pick stuff, or do we use the in-game world and just have them walk down different hallways, and whatever hallway they walk down, that's how we distribute their attributes? And they're like, well, we can pull that together in 2 weeks, and so they went with that.
Well,
and I actually really liked it, because you know, it wasn't very technical, and it was even a little, you know, clunky and weird, but it was also quirky and fun, because you walk down these hallways and they give you a text pop up and then be like, yep, year 2. Now I've just spent a year fighting zombie dogs, and year 3. Now I just spent a year on tour, and you know, I kind of liked it, and I personally recognized it as they were working with a hardware or software limitation. You know, they they didn't want to put a lot of work into something that, really wasn't that important, distributing a couple actions.
I feel the opposite way. Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, and I'm with you, Colin. I do feel the opposite. To me, it felt like you could see the Looking Glass influence on it. This game was made by probably a third Looking Glass people. It uses the exact same engine as Thief with a few tweaks. It was made in their offices. And the thing that was going on at Looking Glass in those days was remove layers of abstraction. Get rid of big interface stuff you don't need. If there is an interface, it should work in real time. We don't want these big screens with stats and numbers. We want things to feel as though they're happening in the game world. And I thought that was really cool. I don't think it was them not wanting to build another system for it. I think it was them thinking really hard about, how can we do the character building part of a game inside gameplay.
And make it original. I mean, I had never seen anything like that before that point. What was your 2 cents there, Colin?
I was just going to say it felt like knowing Ken Levine's background as a kind of failed screenwriter, it almost felt to me being like, and I could totally be wrong about this, but when I was playing it, I felt like him being like, hey, I want to do more story. Can we do this thing at the beginning? And everyone's like, yeah, that's easy. Okay. We'll tack on this thing that is so, it feels like fat on it.
It's arbitrary.
It should be trimmed. It's arbitrary. It should have been trimmed. You could have done that in one cutscene saying who you are and what you've done, instead of spending time having to go down 3 hallways with 3 pop-ups. I thought it was kind of interesting, but failed interesting.
But then how would you get that choice in there if it was just a cutscene? That's what Bioshock did. It's like, here you are. These are the skills you have. Now go to the vending machines and make some big choices about them. I thought in this, it really drove home, you do this. You do psi and electronics, or you do melee weapons and
pistols.
And pistols or something like that.
I don't know how you do it. Yeah. I don't know how you do it, but it felt tacked on to me, and it felt like I don't know, it felt like a writer telling a game designer what he would want, and then they tacked it on instead of coming from the opposite angle. It felt like saying, I really want to include this in the game as a writer. Can we do that?
Well, they have a lot of long-winded writing in the game as well on the pads and the logs and stuff too. So it's what makes that any different from the beginning?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. A lot of that stuff I also don't listen to, but that's such a Ken Levine thing at this point that, man, so much of that shit is just bad, and I don't listen to it. In Bioshock,
random joke. Do you think Ken Levine's gonna make the Bioshock movie?
I hope fucking not, man. Ken Levine does a great job with the world, but a lot of the actual physical writing in Bioshock even is not very good. You know what I mean? It's really not. If that was a movie, it would be bad.
It's not a movie. I think for
the moment writing, some of the writing, the things the characters say, you're characters wouldn't say that. Why would every character? Why would how many characters recorded a fucking audio log the moment before they died?
Well, that's silly, and we make fun of it in our Bioshock serials, but yeah, as a game function for giving you a world and giving you a way to flesh it out, I think it's actually pretty brilliant. Although Ken Levine can't take credit for that, by the way.
I really don't like audio logs in games. I'm on board with Colin there, just because yes, they do add flavor text, they help flesh out the world around you, but they're so artificial, and they're just so, ridiculous, because, they're all just saying these clever and interesting things that just happens to pertain to your exact circumstance right there. I remember specifically in Bioshock, there's a broken water pipe, and right next to it there's a log from the janitor or whatever saying oh, you can't keep the water, you gotta make sure you keep the heaters on, or these pipes are gonna freeze. If they freeze, they're gonna break. If they break, it's gonna flood with water. And sure enough, they just happen to leave their tape recorder on top of the mound of ice that magically, it would have been more interesting to see that and you form your own connection, there's ice there, I wonder if a pipe broke, not be told, a pipe broke here.
It's like the little thing we talked about last week when we talked about writing. It is telling you, not showing you. It's like, yeah, I mean, some of those audio logs are great. The audio logs, when you get multiple in a row, that's like, I'm really scared. I hope something doesn't happen. Oh my God, I see it coming. Oh, I'm dying right now. Like that shit I can't stand. And then what Ryan said I can't stand either. Like, just show us it.
Well, I don't know about you, but I carry a recorder with
give
me
me
all the
flavor.
time.
Give me flavor. Don't give me like exposition. Don't give me like heavy-handed like actions. Give me flavor. And a lot of it is flavor.
I forget who said it, but a couple weeks ago on the Black Mesa review that we were discussing, somebody said they did an excellent job, or they failed at visually cueing something. And so I forget who. Was that you who said that?
Yeah, it was the ladder to get up to the missile launch to kill the Gargantua, right?
Right.
Or
and ever since you said that,
the thing that fell.
Yeah, it was the antenna wasn't visually cued because they didn't put sparks on it. But ever since whoever said that, I've actually been thinking of that term, visually cueing something, because that right there is the artful part about video games. It's not the writing. You know, it's basically allowing the person who's experiencing this to actually make the connection themselves. You know, I mean, we talk about how much we hate hand holding. I don't need to be told that underwater ice freezes, you know, or water freezes, pipes get cold. You know, I mean, I want to look at that. Yeah, I want to look at that and be like, you know what? I bet somebody didn't, you know, I mean, I don't have to be told something if it's, like you said, or like whoever said it, visually cued properly. You know, I mean, if you walk in, you know, I mean, just as a random example, if you walk into a house and there's blood splattered on the wall, you're like, something bad happened here. You don't want to pick up an audio log like, oh my God, he's chasing me with an axe.
Well, and that's something that I believe in first-person games that I could think of. Feel free to come up with someone else, but I think only Valve has really mastered that. When I think of the games that do that really well, I think of Half-Life 2, Portal.
Half-Life 1.
Even Portal 2 had a lot of, or not a lot, but had some of that kind of clunky dialogue, giving you hints or help and fleshing it out. But
Wheatley was
it's really hard to do.
I don't know if I would call it clunky, but yeah, Portal 2 did it really elegantly, I think, actually. But Portal, that's a little different, I guess, than like Ryan was saying. I think that's such a great example of like picking up an audio log next to the broken thing, you know, being like, oh man, this thing did this. You better look for this cue. It's like, well, we get it. Like, show us. And that really is like a lot of telling. And some of it is flavor. A lot of those audio logs are flavor and games that even rip it off, like Singularity.
Would you say they're vanilla?
I would say a lot of them are very vanilla, yeah. Especially ones where people die. I hate an audio log. It's so fucking cheesy when an audio log is like at the moment of death. It's ridiculous.
I want to give an even worse example of this just as a point. There is a story by H.P. Lovecraft where the writer continues to write, and it's coming into the room now, and it's breathing on my shoulder, and oh my God, it's about to, and then it ends.
Yeah, that is corny.
He's still writing. He's still writing.
Yeah, that's like the note you find where the last letter is like the black line runs right off the page as he's being torn away or something like that.
I do hate that shit.
You guys should not. So you should not play Analog a Hate Story. I'm having a lot of fun with that game, but you guys would hate it. It's literally log entries.
I would hate it. Yeah.
Sorry, Rob. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
That's basically what I have.
Well, go ahead.
Let's just say I like audio logs because I think they're one of the better ways we've come up with. But I think that just the fact is we have a lot more work to do and a lot more ideas to come up with for telling these stories better.
I think people do it all the time.
And I don't really know what to do it.
I mean, I really feel like we play a lot of really great games where there aren't audio logs. And then we go to a Ken Levine style game and we get audio logs. Like, tell me that Singularity is not a ripoff of Bioshock, and that's where we get audio logs, you know. And Dishonored, I don't think benefited from audio logs. I don't think it benefited one fucking bit from them.
I think the only reason Dishonored benefited
more open games. That's the problem. You don't have the advantage that you have in these other games where you know exactly where the player is going to be standing and what they're going to be looking at and when they're going to be doing that.
Yeah, but Half-Life didn't have that either, and they did it masterfully.
Sometimes you don't see it on the first playthrough. Like,
right,
you know, true. And then you get, like, maybe in Dishonored, there's no telephones or something, obviously, in that game, I think. But, you know, I'd much rather overhear a conversation when that game does a lot of that, obviously. But
yeah, but they're all you're going to get a squad after that. In Dishonored, that's all the conversation.
Well, no, that's true. No, you get a lot of tactical.
You do stuff, to Dishonored's credit, it uses a lot of variety in that.
There's
books, which are totally optional. There's conversations you overhear, and there's also audio logs, which are not even close to the main way of getting that information across. They're just one of many things it uses.
Well, I think that they use them very, very well for fleshing out. That's the thing. If they use them to flesh out a world, that's one thing. But if they're using it to kind of gear you towards something, that's something altogether. That's why I liked Dishonored's fluff stuff, was because it really made me feel like they were fleshing out the world. Well, not at the same time, I wasn't feeling they were trying to gear me towards something most of the time as well.
But the reason it feels artificial is because it is artificial. No one writes a diary like that. You know what I mean? Like one concise, super important piece of information. You know? I mean, that takes you out of the story. And some games, the best games that have to convey information, do it in a different way really well. Ken Levine, I think, has really decided this is a great way to do it. Although, to his credit, we haven't had a Ken Levine game in quite a while. So
now, one thing I want to bring up here, since you and Colin, Rob, both played it, I believe vanilla, you just did a standard install. Ryan, did you get the original version running and then the HD graphics running?
Yes, I actually, obviously it's always been difficult to get the game running, on newer operating systems. What I ended up having to do was just copy the installation folder. The actual game is completely set up on the disk already. You just copy the shock folder over to your hard drive, and it'll fire off right there off your hard drive. I ended up making 5 duplicates of System Shock 2. The first one barely ran at all. The second one was with the version 2.4 patch installed. And that was wonderful because it added 1920 by 1080, graphics rather than the capped at
32-bit, all the good stuff.
Yeah. So that really helped. And then after that, I started duplicating that 2.4 version of the game, trying to get the HD pack and the updated model packs working. I did end up getting the updated textures working, but I never did get the updated models working, which is why I was saying earlier I was impressed by how scary 100 polygons, of a guy that looks like one of those aliens from Star Wars. They got the tubes hanging off their head or something like that. I mean, I could barely even understand what I was looking at, but
I think Yahtzee from The Escapist put it best. He was talking about Thief, but it's the same thing. They look like polio victims.
Wow. Great. Anyway. So at this point, guys, I'm going to go round robin, starting with Rob, and I want to get your guys' closing comments and final thoughts on System Shock 2 as a whole. So Rob, take us away.
I think the most important thing to know going into this game, if you haven't played it, Amazon.com, eBay, or whatever you need to do, play it. I think it's an important game, and I think don't just play it twice. Once is luck, twice is practice with System Shock 2. There are so many systems going on and so many things you can mess up or be confused about that if you play through the game or even half the game and then start over, as much as that sucks to do, you'll be glad you did it. And I think that there is a really, really amazing, excellent horror game in there that everyone should play if you like video games.
All right. And how about you, Colin? What are you feeling?
I do agree that it is important because as much as we may or may not like the systems that we've been talking about, this game invented a lot of them, or maybe its predecessor, but it's like a very much know your roots kind of game. So if you like its predecessors like Bioshock
or successors.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yes, successors. Bioshock or even Singularity. This is a game that's a really good way to understand where that came from, and I think it's interesting to see how modern it is for when it came out. As old as it feels now, it was definitely doing a lot of things that other games weren't doing at the time. So approaching it just dead, like if you don't have the nostalgia factor, it's hard to approach. But it's not unapproachable because of its of what it did for the modern gaming community.
All right, and Mr. DeBrawl.
Yeah, I have to agree with Colin. It has a lot of the gameplay mechanics in their very early stages of development, before they become the standard that everybody just latches onto and, we take for granted nowadays. I would like to mention one thing that if we didn't bring this up, I think we'd be doing a disservice to this podcast. Shodan. And
yeah, great.
How she compares to like GLaDOS. Other rogue AIs like GLaDOS. I guess on the subject, I came at this from a different angle. I had played both Portal games. I really loved GLaDOS as a character. And so when Shodan showed up, it was a very different, much more
We should probably
angry,
give a spoiler alert here, guys. So, spoiler, if you don't want to hear about one of the main character of the game, go ahead and fast forward to the end here. But
sure.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was actually very surprised by how much depth they had in this character. As far as a rogue AI or whatever she was. I only pieced together a little bit of her origin story, how she was basically just some sort of piece of equipment over on this Citadel station, but somehow she became sentient and ended up creating the many or whatever. But I guess I was really impressed, and I definitely could see the cues that GLaDOS took from Shodan. But one thing about Shodan that I think GLaDOS greatly improved upon was Shodan's over-reliance, and they do it so many times in sci-fi, the glitchy voiced AI. You leave a robot on a planet for 200 years and you come back and the thing, its audio visual processing circuits must be the first thing that get corrupted because she has to repeat
she just does it to scare you.
Word 7 times.
It's memory that goes first, but they forget that.
And it was just a little much. She was definitely a lot more sinister, I think is the best word to describe her. I guess I shouldn't use her, but it. Because
GLaDOS proves that wrong. Sorry, go ahead.
What do you mean?
Oh, just because she was fine after 200 years. Anyway, sorry.
Oh.
GLaDOS still had some issues. Like, she definitely had some, like, those test Pokemon,
I thought they did that a lot better. In Portal 1, Portal 2, they actually fleshed her out as a character. They actually made her even, likable. In Portal 1, when she was fritzing out, it was always much in the background. If you remember the feeling of the very first Portal 1, you didn't even know GLaDOS was real or sentient at the beginning. You thought GLaDOS was a pre-recorded voice that was bugging out once in a while. Until you realize that bugging out is a symptom of a deeper neuroses. Whereas with Shodan, she's just scrambled from the very second you're talking to her. She's not making any sense. And, while it's awesome, she's calling you an insect and she's got these delusions of grandeur. And I don't know, maybe they're not even delusions. She was able to create life. That kind of does make her a god. And, obviously it was a horrible, against God sort of life, but the fact that she made that stuff, it kind of gave her the right to have that kind of I guess narcissistic, sociopathic, edge to her.
I love how infuriatingly arrogant she is. Yeah. And there's nothing you can do about it because she's the only person on the ship who can help you, or the only entity on the ship who can help you defeat this greater threat.
Mm-hmm.
And It just gives it a nice dynamic. You're helping this horrible being, and you hate her so much, but you got to do what she's saying.
But that's so GLaDOS. I mean, if you read the lore,
well, that's Portal 2
of Portal. No. If you read the lore of Portal, GLaDOS went rogue 0.0000139 seconds after her creation. Like, she immediately was like evil.
Neurotoxic.
Yeah, exactly. It's like took GLaDOS on, everyone dead. Like moments later, she was like,
again, spoiler here.
I should kill everyone.
Spoiler for Portal 2. Was GLaDOS the Caroline?
Yes.
Definitely.
Okay, that's what I pulled. Was that she was Caroline.
Cave Johnson was probably researching keeping himself alive, and he didn't have.
Well, he says that he's like, I'm dying, but Caroline, she won't want it, but you make her, you put her on a disc or something like that, you know. And I'm sure
she was basically her, Caroline. I think it was Caroline. She was obviously the most loyal friend, possible lover of Cave Johnson. You know, it's his biggest fan, and the tragedy is that Cave Johnson didn't respect her in return. You know, he basically used her as a guinea pig when it all came down to it in a apparently failed attempt to, lengthen his life. I mean, she was, oh yes sir, Mr. Johnson, and you could tell that there was something going on there, like they may have even been involved or something like that, but in the end, all her dedication and all her,
she was married,
kindness
to science.
Oh, right.
Also, though, like GLaDOS makes more sense as a computer because she is a little more rational, and that makes more sense to me a little bit. Like as a computer would go, like Shodan's her personality is so like rogue that as far as the computer goes, GLaDOS is still rational. Like I'm doing this for this reason, though. You know.
Well, it is explained in System Shock 1, but most people who even play System Shock 2 haven't played that. But that is a very central plot point in System Shock 1. You are a hacker who let Shodan off the leash.
Oh, okay. So when you deactivate her morality core?
Pretty much, yeah. You hacked into Shodan and created her essentially by letting her bypass what Isaac Asimov would call the rules of, or the three laws of robotics.
Yeah.
Why did he do that?
Because you're a dumb hacker and they needed a reason for you to have an anti-hero.
Yeah. The same reason Anonymous hacks, people shit and releases it for free on the internet.
Oh, what an asshole.
Yeah, everyone.
Which is why I like GLaDOS again, because she just needed 0.00039 seconds until she went rogue, which is so at a company that made only shower curtain hooks.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Aperture only made shower curtain hooks?
That was how they started.
Yeah.
Where's this lore? Where's this lore found?
Oh, it's right there in the game. They also tried to market the repulsion gel as a diet drink.
Yeah, this is actually stuff that accidentally leaked. Valve accidentally put a website live when it wasn't supposed to be, before they had even written Portal 2. And the writers were just like, whoops, guess that's lore now. And they kind of stuck to it for the game, yeah.
I'm going to have to look this up. I thought
there's that whole kind of DOS thing, too. You know, that DOS, like, code thing that you could do? Did you guys ever see that? That, like, mini game that was online? You could go to this website and it was like a DOS mini game?
Yeah.
No.
That was for unlocking Portal 2 early, wasn't it?
I found it before. I think it was a little earlier than the ARG. Maybe it was the first step. Maybe it was the first stage of it. But I remember there was like a DOS screen where you could do some like basic hacking, quote unquote, things and like enter code, and you would get different.
Yeah, this was before the game was announced. It wasn't quite the ARG, but it was kind of a little mini one they did.
Is that what I'm talking about, Rob?
Yeah, and I think I might be wrong about this, but I think that's part of the accidental thing that happened.
And yeah, it was like a DOS like mini game kind of thing.
All right. Well, before we get any more off subject, I'm going to go ahead and give my 2 cents, then we can wrap this up. I had a very, very difficult time getting this game to play and continue playing. Most of my 2 cents you heard was pretty much all I have. But what I did notice was this game, as far as textures go, The gameplay is great, textures not so much. When you have things that you're interacting with, it still feels very much like an old game. Things don't really maneuver quite as well. You have switches that look really, really good if you use the texture upgrades, but they're still 2D. The shooting mechanic still feels very Doom to me. Not much recoil. Really static guns, stuff like that. I personally, whenever I play this game, and I know I should probably play it a different way, but I always play as a psionic, just because that's how I've always done it. And I tried playing, and the psionic just does not hold up as far as how I remember it playing. I don't think it's a bad gameplay choice, but I remember it being a hell of a lot cooler when I was, 13, 14. So that is my 2 cents. And I want to thank you guys for coming on. Of course, Ryan, we haven't had you for a little bit, so thank you again for joining us.
Oh, it's always great being here.
And Colin, thank you for putting your 2 cents in and filling me in on some stuff I did not know about Portal.
Well, my pleasure.
And Rob, I think I'll quote Colin, go fuck yourself. All right, guys, well, you go ahead and have a great Halloween. And make sure to check those candy bars for syringes. Now, if you want to contact us, you can reach us at gameoutloudpodcast@gmail.com, or you can check us out on Twitter at gameoutloudcast. We're there all the time, 24/7. I'm pretty sure we're all running around with Twitter on our phones. So go ahead and drop us a line, and we will talk to you about that and anything else you want to bring up. So you can go and listen to our podcast streaming and get editorials from bagofgames.com, where Ryan is actually a contributor. And I gotta say, guys, if you haven't stopped by there yet, you need to, because the crew they've got writing over there, I think Ryan put it best. They get flamed because they give their honest opinion. And that is something that I highly prize in my video game websites. So again, www.bagofgames.com. Check us out. Check them out. Enjoy. We will see you next week.